What is going on, everybody? A2 Angler here, new camera angle, trying out some different things. Today I thought it'd be pretty cool to take out my BFS setup versus my ultralight spinning setup, put it to the test on a lake I've never been on, and see which one produces more. Let's get it. All right, it's early in the morning. We got a little bit of an overcast day. It's gonna be a great day today. It's been a little hot, a couple storms went through, but now everything is kind of stabilized out and we have a nice overcast day. So hopefully everything goes well. And let me introduce you to my BFS setup. This is a Daiwa Gekabijin 8.5, I believe. Yeah, 8.5 gear ratio. I've got it spooled up with some high vis 8-pound braid, very light line to a leader, fluorocarbon leader. I have that paired on a Steez Finesse Games Special. This is one of the most expensive Daiwa rods I can afford. This is a 6'8" lightweight 1/16 to 3/8 ounce rated rod, and the line is rated 5 to 12 pounds. So we're gonna give this a shot today. I'm gonna start out with an old favorite, the Nico rig. Let's go. Okay, so one of the things we should probably start talking about right off the bat is just the castability of the bait caster. One of the main things that I've enjoyed about learning the BFS setup has to do with something that not a lot of people think about, which is castability, but also the fact that you are not going to get the same amount of wind knots with a bait caster as you do with a spinning rod. And I think that's super important to just talk about right off the bat. There's a couple of fish in front of me here. Is that you can cast this out, pretty much know you're not going to get a wind knot unless catastrophic failure. Now the other side of the argument there though is you have a higher risk of backlash, especially with a bait caster and especially with light line. The line is super important. I learned pretty early that you have to use a really good line, because if not, the line is small and thin enough that if you backlash the wrong type of line, cheap line, is just gonna snap off every single time. I was losing lures and line like crazy because it would backlash, but the line was so small that it would cut itself like, I don't know, like throwing thread or something. And so you don't have that with the spinning gear setup. So that's one of the major differences straight off the bat, is just the using of the reel and the rod. Now the other thing that needs to also be said is, I don't think a lot of people fully understand the BFS setup and its origins. This is a technique that was created in Japan for the use of trout fishing in streams. You know, this is not, someone came up to investigate. This is not a technique that was invented for bass. In fact, this came over to the United States from Japan. These reels were all dialed in for trout fishing, and a lot of the BFS lures that you can find on the Japanese market were for trout. What happened was when it came over to the US, anglers started to adapt the practices to use them for bass. And so then you start to see the development of lures that you would use on spinning rods on BFS setups. And so that's kind of how it started to get, I think, popular, and more people started to use it. However, I have yet to see it in one of the major tournaments. You know, you watch the Taku Itos, the Kiyoya Fujitas, they are not essentially using BFS gear. They're still using spinning gear. And so even the folks coming from the country where it was invented are still using conventional spinning gear. And I think there's probably a couple good reasons for that. So, you know, that's a big thing for me. If it were the opposite, you know, and you're seeing the Takumi Itos and all of them starting to use more of their BFS setup gear, there might be a larger argument for it. But right now, what you're seeing is the Japanese anglers using spinning gear with Japanese techniques. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to bass fishing, it is a finesse presentation for the most part. You can do some really light flipping using this type of setup. And basically anything you could throw on a spinning rod, you can throw on a BFS setup. And some things throw better. Some things do not throw better. The drop shot is one of those baits that doesn't work very well. I've noticed that just the way the bait caster lets line off the reel, when you have two weights that are kind of competing for momentum in the air, the bait caster and the spool, they don't like that. That's where I think the drop shot will always be king on the spinning reel. However, this Neko rig or Nico rig that I'm using, I think is great. So anything that has weight at one point on the line could be used. I'm thinking Neds, I'm thinking Nikos, I'm thinking light jigs, small swim baits. All of those types of things will work really well in a BFS setup. Getting more into like the why I use the different techniques, I think there are a lot of very specific things that would make you use one or the other. And one of them, I think, has to do with fishability and readiness. By that, what I mean is when I'm throwing a spinning rod on docks, sometimes I'll miss a cast. I'm not as accurate. I feel like I'm much more accurate with the BFS bait casting setup. The other thing I really like is, and let me show you here, after a cast, and I can do this with a spinning rod. You can do it. Like, they're pretty much the same. I'm gonna be honest. But watch this. I'm engaged, right? Ready to go, and I'm there. And the rod's in position. A lot of times with a spinning rod, I don't feel like I do that as quickly. And when you're in a tournament situation, like right there, something just rose up, I can flip out to it, see if he'll bite. And if not, I'm reeling in, I'm back, and I'm over here now, smacking boats. You know, so I just think that the BFS and a bait casting setup is a little bit faster. And, you know, maybe you don't believe me, but then I'll ask you, why don't you use a medium heavy spinning rod with 30-pound braid? Maybe you do. So it's kind of style and preference. But for me, being faster as a tournament angler, that's really key to me. Something else I really enjoy doing is thumbing the spool when I'm fighting a fish. Like I just got one now. Oh yeah. It's a good fish. So as I'm fighting this fish, you know, I can fight it like I'm using a bait cast. It's got good drag on it. Get down in the weeds now. How about that fish landing? Right? So there's the first fish on the bait caster. It goes to show like kind of what I was talking about. You pitch it in there, you click, you engage the reel, it's ready to go, it's right there, and you're ready to get the fish. I really like to thumb a spool when I'm fighting a fish. I feel like I have a lot more control over the fight. I can't do that as much on a spinning reel. I just kind of have to hope that I've dialed in the spinning reel, that it doesn't slip. You know, on a spinning reel, I have to kind of trust the drag. And I have good spinning reels, I do trust the drag. I trust my thumb a lot more because I can feel the pressure that I'm giving the fish. So as I hook a fish, this looks like a rock bass. As I hook a fish, I'm able to thumb the reel for my drag. And I can rely on the drag of the reel, or I can open up the spool and thumb the spool. So I feel like there's a few different ways to fight a fish using the BFS gear versus a spinning setup. The other thing I feel like I'm a little bit better at with the bait caster is skipping. So I can skip on a spinning rod. I prefer to skip with a bait caster, mainly because of that engagement. I can get it under there, the rod's in position, I can engage the spool, and I'm ready to fight a fish should it bite. Again, you can do that on a spinning setup. I just feel like you can do it better on a bait caster. Some people enjoy flipping docks and doing stuff like that on a spinning, so it's gonna be your preference. But if you wanna try out the BFS setup on docks, I think it can kind of change the game. You know, it's also a percentage thing. If I can flick this in there, engage the reel, you know, fish it faster, I can get to more docks, more casts in a day or in a morning, and hopefully have a little bit more success out on the water. When it's tournament time, every second counts. I mean, I can't tell you how many tournaments I've won, literally won, in the last minute, 5 minutes, or even last 5 seconds. One of the biggest tournaments I ever won, I won the tournament in the last 5 seconds. I didn't win it on a BFS setup, but what I'm saying is time matters. And when you're able to fish quickly, like using a bait caster, that really comes into play for tournament fishing. I'm actually surprised we don't see it more often. So I'm gonna keep fishing docks here. I'm gonna try to show off the range and ability of the bait casting setup. And then maybe I'll switch to the spinning gear and stay shallow on the docks and just see how it feels and see how it's different. You know, as I just made my last cast, I realized another point to the bait caster is the ability to thumb the reel as it's going in. Now you can still do the same thing on a spinning rod. And you're gonna hear me say that a lot, I think. You can do these similar techniques on a spinning rod, no question about it. But that cast right there, the ability to thumb it, get it in there, be very accurate, engage the reel, and then just be ready to hit them. I just don't think a lot of people are realizing the small nuances between the BFS setup and a spinning rod. And yeah, they can do very similar things. I'm never gonna say that they can't, right? But they do different things when you drill down into the nuances of what each can do. And you can just as happily throw pretty much the same techniques on both, but when you think about some of these really small nuances, they can make a big difference when you're in a tournament. And so that's where, you know, you see him suspended. That's where you would go to a drop shot. And so, you know, that's right there. You see him suspended, you switch to a drop shot. So they have their realms, you know, it's their tools. Look at them like golf clubs, right? Like, you're gonna use them for different things. I still think the drop shot is an incredible technique. I've won a lot of money on a drop shot. So I don't think the BFS rod is here to take over, you know, from the drop shot. I really don't think that's how it can be best used. I think it's an alternative finesse tactic that you can have, and then you can rig up your drop shot and your Nico and, you know, use them both. I think that's really important to say. Let's run this up shallow with the spinning rod. This is a 25,000 size Daiwa ballistic on a, this is a medium 1/8 to 1/2 ounce. So a little bit heavier rod when compared to the ultralight spinning, or sorry, the ultralight BFS. So let's run that up shallow. We'll see what it looks like, and I'll talk a little bit about the differences. So right off the bat, in terms of accuracy, I know, you know, I can still make a pretty accurate cast, but I do lose a little bit of accuracy. You'll see me probably cast a couple times, and maybe it's just because I'm not as practiced with a spinning rod, but I do feel like I lose a little bit of accuracy with the spinning rod, and you can see me thumbing the spool. So you can get a little bit more accuracy by using that trick of thumbing the spool. That's my line, that's my rod. It's my knot actually. My knot is getting in the way, so it's already pissing me off. My connection leader knot, for some reason that's not working very well. But already having issues, you know? Never had to worry about that with a bait caster. I use a long leader on a spinning rod. That might be my fault, but I do that for a very important reason, and that's so when you're fighting a fish, you can get that knot into, ooh, this might be a cool cast. When you're fighting a fish, you get the knot into the spinning reel, and you don't have to worry about breaking on a guide or something like that. Now, one thing I'll say too is, even though I prefer to skip with a bait caster because I feel like I'm in better position, the ability to skip like I just did there with the spinning rod is really unmatched. You can get this really far back on some docks and skip really well with a spinning rod. better in some cases than you can with a bait casting setup. And it's a lot more forgiving. I just skipped in there and I don't have to worry about a backlash. Sometimes I have to worry about the wind knot. I can pick a backlash out if I catch it early enough. If I get a wind knot, it's over. I have to cut it off and start again. So. This is a good fish, man. Big pike. Damn. Got him. Got him. Oh, there's a bunch down there, dude. This is gonna be sick. So this is where This is where you break one off like an idiot. Another thing the BFS rod excels at, I think, is this little finesse head swim bait. This is an 1/8 ounce swim bait. I'm gonna start throwing this around. We'll see if we get any bites and then follow up with the drop shot. So like I said, really it's about using things in combination and finding the tools that can help you just catch more fish. So let's get to it. They're all about that size today. All right, finesse swim bait off the edge there. Those are all back. What? Like a better one too. So I just found a mega school because, like, literally, watch this. This is a mega school of bass. You can just throw in there. He's got it. Yeah, what's up? Hey, how are you? Good. I'm looking at 100 of them. No, not yet. We'll find one though. How are you? That's awesome. Okay, I finally got one of the better blobs. We'll see what it is. Just a better fish. Yeah, those are just fish, man. This one's got a nasty sore on his face. Those are all just fish. That's interesting. hairy cube. No size yet, but that'll do. What's really cool is with the BFS setup, the way it works is you can throw that small little cube 50, 60 feet accurately, which you couldn't do maybe with a spinning rod. This might be a decent fish. Oh yeah. Easy. Get in here, man. That's the best one of the day right there. On the cube. That's decent. Oh yeah. Size is getting a little better too. So it just goes to show, you know, throw something different and you never know what can happen. There's another one. That's a better fish too. Not bad. Oh, he came off. Oh, that looked like a smallmouth. They're eating the snot out of this hairy cube, dude. Whoa, there's a pike and I'm dead. Well, that's thunder, so I think I'm gonna call it there. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to explain a little bit of why BFS, why spinning, and just so you can see for yourself. If it's something you want to invest in it. If not, that's fine. More fish for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and catch you at the next one. We'll see ya.